Resentment in relationships, how not to be resentful towards a man. In this video, we will talk about resentments, why we often live and accumulate resentments, and how to get rid of this destructive emotion. So let's go step by step. It is resentment. Resentment is actually a childish stance or an unspoken grievance. For many, it all starts in childhood, when, as a child, your mother or father scolds you for something, and you can't express your grievances because you are completely dependent on them, meaning your parents provide for your life, and you can't say anything to them because of that. You stay silent, listen to the scolding, and accumulate resentment. Resentment towards what he considers, perhaps, unfair. So, everything stems from childhood, but when a person grows up, they stop being dependent on their parents and have the right to express their grievances. In other words, when we are able to articulate that something has upset us, there is no desire to accumulate all the resentments because situations are resolved immediately and quickly. But often, we take on that same childish stance. For example, a man did something wrong, behaved incorrectly towards you, did something the wrong way, or said something the wrong way. And so, what did I do? I felt hurt. Instead of expressing through the lens of my I statements, through the lens of my feelings, that this doesn't work for me, I don't like this, you can't treat me this way, I am experiencing negative feelings at this moment. Describe your negative feelings that arise in certain situations. Man hears you through I statements, and he no longer repeats the behavior. How much simpler can it get? Let him figure out why I'm upset. Be upset. Stay silent. Walk around sulking. Also, it might be that the behavior model is copied from the parents, where the mother would be resentful towards the father, stay silent for a couple of days, and then the father would appease her with gifts. This model has formed the belief that this is normal. But in reality, accumulated resentments do not solve problems. They create many more, and being happy, in fact, is only your choice. We always choose how to live, in what feelings, and in what emotions to live our lives. You can choose the option where you take responsibility for your life, where you address situations without fear, and once resolved, you move on and live happily. After all, you don't have the task of storing 1,000,000 and 500 resentments on the shelves in your mind, because they also need to be sustained by your energy. As they accumulate there, they actually drain a lot of strength and energy. So, if a person chooses not to accumulate resentments, but to resolve them immediately, then they choose the path of a happy life. In other words, I can live my life happily. There are no destructive emotions on the shelves in my mind, no negative feelings. I have a celebration of happiness, love, and abundance in my mind because I don't hold onto negativity. If you recognize yourself and understand that yes, resentments are accumulating and problems are not being resolved, what should you do? When you are resentful towards a person, you allow that person to control your mind. And by deciding to address the situation so that it does not affect you, you are taking responsibility for your own life. So, what should you do to deal with your resentments? Ask yourself these questions. What will resentment give me? In the moment, you had an argument with your man, or maybe you didn't even argue. Maybe he did something unacceptable to you, but he might not even know that it is unacceptable to you, and you already wanted to feel resentful. Ask yourself these questions in order. What will this resentment give me? Answer yourself honestly. It's better to write down the answers on a piece of paper so you can read them later. What does this resentment give you? Next, what will I gain by being resentful? Just be honest. Write down what you will get. Ruined day, a week, a bunch of negative emotions, living a week, for example, in depression and so on. Write down everything that this resentment gives you. Next is my state improving. Carefully observe yourself. Does your condition improve when you are in a state of resentment? Most likely, no. Moving on. Will my life become more joyful, and will the state of resentment bring me happiness? If you realize that when answering these questions you are saying no, your life is unhappier because you are resentful, then maybe you should take some action to avoid being in the state. A person always chooses how to live their life, and it is the person themselves who determines their own life. Our daily choices. When you choose to be happy, you direct all your energy in the right direction. So you choose happiness, love, and so on. And if you choose not to be offended, it means you are choosing the path of a happy life. Sometimes it's scary to move forward, especially when you have a habit of holding grudges against the whole world and never talking about your grievances. Taking the first step can be frightening, but we all know that where there is fear, there is growth. Face your fear and you will see how your life begins to change. After all, you are living your life here and now. Why burden yourself with negativity when you can choose a completely different approach to life? Next, don't hold grudges, but draw conclusions. This is what you can do when it comes to a man, perhaps colleagues, or a toxic friend who periodically hurts you, or a man and you've already tried, but he still does things to cause you pain. Then, draw conclusions. Think about what you can do with the situation. If you tell a person that they cannot treat you this way, but they still continue to act the same way, meaning they enjoy causing you pain, then draw conclusions and make your own decisions in your life. No one will ever change your life for the better for you. A wizard in a blue helicopter does not come to make your life better. Your life is in your hands, and only you can decide which way to turn. Either take small steps towards happiness, or let grudges, negativity, and complex emotions accumulate, often leading to depression. Grudges do not solve problems or difficult situations. They only make them worse. It grows into a tender lump because you got upset, didn't say anything, for example, got upset with a man and decided that he should figure it out on his own. Suddenly, he possesses extrasensory abilities, for example, he guessed here, he guessed there, he guessed over there. This is how a woman who is offended imagines it. But she already has a whole bunch of grudges in her head, and this bunch is trying to find a way out. And in the moment, it can destroy, for example, relationships that, by addressing certain situations as they arise, would not have led to the outcome caused by this explosion of all accumulated grievances. Therefore, do not be afraid to address your problems as they arise, and do not be afraid to voice your grievances. What goals do grudges pursue? Often, resentment is used as a means of manipulation, and it pursues certain goals. First is self-justification. By blaming someone else, a person seems to justify themselves. In other words, the relationship isn't working out. Why? Because the husband is bad. He behaves poorly, provides poorly, and does other things poorly. But we all know that relationships are always an interaction between two people. It can't be that one is all good and wonderful, and the other just took and ruined everything. When you, for example, constantly blame your partner, then the question for you is, what are you doing in this relationship if it is so bad? And if they are not that bad, then why don't you change something in your life too? Prove them. And the same applies to any communication, any relationships, friendships, from interactions with colleagues to interactions with a man. When you take on an adult position, you then make decisions for yourself in your life. When you are in a childlike position, this includes grudges, various manipulations, anything that a child learned in childhood. For example, a girl learned in childhood that when she pouted, her dad would run and buy her something like candy or a new doll. She accepted that if she pouted her lips, someone would give her something. But in adulthood, it doesn't work that way. No one wants to run and get something when she pouts. People prefer to spend time with those who are, for example, filled with positivity and something wonderful. Next, manipulation is the second goal that resentment pursues. After all, if I am resentful, it means I can manipulate my man as I want. But all this is only temporary, because where there is manipulation, there are destructive relationships, and those relationships gradually fall apart. Never head towards destruction, because in the long term, it is better to build honest relationships. When you come from an honest place, you ultimately get what you have created. And if you create something, say, on such an honest basis, where you're not trying to manipulate, not trying to get something out of a person through your own resentments, manipulations, or complex emotions, but instead learn to communicate and be honest in relationships, then you ultimately achieve relationships that others look at and feel inspired by, seeing how beautifully it turned out. Well, if you resort to manipulation, to blackmail, for example, when a person is suffering. What is blackmail? When a person suffers because of your emotions, another person suffers as well. Ultimately, you end up destroying your own relationships. What should you do in this situation if you now recognize yourself, meaning you understand that this is your technique of resentment? The first thing you need to do is remember where it came from. Call a situation from your childhood, reflect on it, and don't hesitate to spend some time sitting in silence, writing, and contemplating. When we slow down in the moment, it allows us to significantly change our future life. So sit down and think about that. Remember when, as a child, there were situations where you, for example, felt hurt and got something, or when you felt hurt and somehow used manipulation. Try to remember that our brain remembers everything. It will reveal it to you. Start writing about how you felt resentful as a child, and your subconscious might tell you so much that you'll be surprised when you start writing. Therefore, it is very important to remember where everything comes from. Next, accept the fact that by harboring resentment, you are harming yourself. Gradually accumulating resentment, you slide into depression, meaning you are destroying your own life with your own hands by accumulating negative emotions and harboring resentments. So think about whether this benefits you, or if you want to live at a different order, a different level. Just ask yourself now, do I like my life right now? Am I satisfied with everything in my life? Am I satisfied with my current relationship with my partner? Or would I like a completely different level? To change something, you always need to start with yourself, because the one who wants to change is the one who should start doing something. Don't wait, thinking that if you want to change something, your partner should do something. No, we create our own lives. If you want a different level of relationship, different order, then you have to do something. And then you change. Transform something within yourself. And you notice how your partner has transformed. It's as if by some miracle, they have changed and are now completely different. He reacts differently now because you have stopped displaying your complex emotions. In other words, by working on yourself, you are also changing your partner. And let go of your anger. Don't bottle it up. Make it a practice to do this once a week, for example, or once every 2 weeks. Go to the forest, take a walk, breathe in the fresh air, listen to the birds singing, walk around, notice the beauty, focus your vision, shout. Dust. No one can hear you, so don't be embarrassed that there are people nearby. The forest is the perfect place for this. Scream as loud as you can. Think about shouting out all your resentments, all your anger right now. You will now free yourself, and all the negativity will leave you. We'll get rid of everything, and then you will build a happier life. That is, you will work on your complex emotions. That's all for this video. This was Elisa of Ardenskaya. I hope for your likes and subscriptions. Write in the comments what you would like to discuss in my new videos. Don't forget to hit the bell, and goodbye everyone.